Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, at this juncture, I move that we recognize to co-sponsor the measure the distinguished gentleman from the great province of Aurora, our Senate Finance Committee Chair, Senator Sonny Angara.
Our distinguished chairman of the Committee on Finance, no other than our colleague Senator Sonny Angara, is recognized.
Salamat, Mr. President. Salamat, Majority Leader, dear colleagues. Actually, wala akong prepared speech, Mr. President, but I'm so moved by the achievement or the feat of our countrywoman, Alex Eala, at such a tender age that I think it would be, I should stand up and praise her because having been a tennis fan for so long, my late father, my mother are avid tennis players. And I've known Alex for at least six or 7 years now, actually. I saw her grow up. The first tournament I saw her win was a juniors tournament in 2016 in Thailand, in Bangkok. She was there with her brother Miko, older brother, who's now flying the Philippine flag as a NCAA tennis player for Penn State University, a Division I school. So it runs in the blood, Mr. President. Mahusay talaga sila. But I would like to make a few points in relation, and I share all of the manifestations and statements made by our colleagues, our good majority leader, Senator Binay, Senator Pia, our chairman of sports, Senator Bong, who I'd like to thank for having such a good committee hearing this morning and pledging support for of all forms for Philippine sports, particularly the SBP hosting of the World Cup. Thank you, sir. To our colleagues here, Senator Jinggoy is a athlete. Kung napanood niyo yung Star Olympics, he's the first athlete to combine boxing and basketball in one go. No, Mr. President, seriously speaking, I think we should take this opportunity because the Senate President is a former national athlete. The Majority Leader is a former national athlete. The speaker before me, the chair of the Committee on SDGs, is a former national athlete. The Minority Leader is a great chess player who plays with very talented chess champions. Sino pa ba? Basta magagaling. Si Senator Alan Cayetano, napakagaling mag-basketball yan. Ang chairman ng Committee on Sports po, yan po ay three-point shooter na kalibre ni Stephen Curry. So, JV is a biking aficionado.
BMX.
And he was also a very good basketball player when I was with him in Xavier. So my point, Mr. President, is that Philippine sports is having a moment with Alex Eala's victory, with Yuka Sasso being the first Filipina golfer, with the achievements of the Malditas, the women's football team, who won a tournament recently in Southeast Asia. You know, our athletes all over the world are achieving a lot. And so I would like to echo what was said by our colleagues, led by our chair of sports, Senator Bongo, this morning, that we should support our athletes more. And in fairness, I think this chamber has been very supportive of Philippine sports. If you track the progress of the PSC and the sports budget over the last decade, it has continuously been added to or improved by this chamber. I used to chair it, Senator Joel used to chair it, and now it's chaired by Senator Go. And of course, Senator Pia, Senator Alan have all been instrumental, especially when we hosted the SEA Games a few years ago, Mr. President. But I'd like to mention the personal sacrifices and add to what Senator Pia said. Because the father of Alex, Michael Eala, he made it his mission to go with Alex for her every tournament. So he's like, if you watch that movie of Will Smith, what's it about? Something about the King? Where he accompanied, that's about the father of Venus and Serena Williams. And he won an Oscar for that, which was overshadowed by a famous slapping incident, Mr. President. But the point is, we have our own local version of that, and that is the father of Alex Eala, Michael Eala, who, fortunately, his wife has a good job with a local company. So I should also commend the local sponsor of Alex, that's Globe Telecoms, because just like other big companies, ICTSI, who tumaya po sila kay Yuka Sasso at nanalo, yung MVP Group at Smart, tumaya po sa SBP sa Gilas. And they've spent over 1 billion pesos just supporting the Philippine team. I just would like to pose it to this chamber the question: what can we achieve if the government matches the commitment of the private sector, Mr. President? I think we can achieve even greater heights. Yun ang punto ko. Secondly, Mr. President, in my conversations with Mike Eala, ang sinasabi niya, ang hirap pala yung magkaroon ng Philippine passport because everywhere they go and they have to look for visas for Alex, nahihirapan ho sila dahil it's so time consuming and minsan they have to travel right away, hindi nila nakukuha kaagad yung visa na pupuntahan nila. And full credit to the Eala family for keeping their Philippine citizenship because we know some athletes like Wesley So, for instance, he gave up, alam ni Minority Leader to, one of our great athletes, chess talents, who's now reaping awards and trophies for the US. But he was Filipino originally. And yun, medyo nagkaroon ng, I don't want to dwell on that, pero he was not given the support. That's why he changed nationality, Mr. President. So sa akin, let's support our athletes. And I call on the DFA, I call on all its consular offices and passport offices abroad to please, pagka dumating dyan yung pasaporte ni Alex Eala at nung ibang atleta po natin, please roll out the red carpet for them. Please make it easy for them. Because it's hard enough traveling all over the world. Bugbog po ang kanilang katawan sa practice. Gagastos sila ng dolyares, pounds, Swiss francs, kung ano, euros, na ilang peso lang po ang conversion rate po nyon at gumagastos sila ng napaka hirap na bunga ng kanilang pawis. Tulungan po natin sila. Yun po ang panawagan ko para makapag-concentrate ang ating mga atleta sa kanilang mga tournaments at competitions. I'd also like to make mention of Carl Santamaria. Carl Santamaria is a former national team tennis player who happens to be Alex Eala's coach. He's also the coach of my son. I mention him because he's also the Davis Cup Philippines coach a few years ago and the coach of the national university team. I mention him because recently he migrated to Australia, Mr. President. So he's considered one of the top coaches in the country. He would be hired by any of the top universities or any of the clubs in the Philippines. And yet he chose to leave for Australia. I don't blame him because, you know, his calendar is fully booked from 8 in the morning up to the evening. And yet he feels he doesn't earn enough to make a decent living here. And he's one of those who is the top professionals in his sport in terms of knowledge, being evidenced by the number of tournaments that the National University has won in UAAP for tennis. So yung puntos ko lang, ang tanong ko lang, Mr. President, why do our best and brightest leave? Why do our best and brightest scientists leave? Why do our best and brightest athletes and coaches leave? Pag-aralan natin, Mr. President. There is something in our policies. Maybe we don't have the policies which foster the ecosystem, which for them. Last week, I had that conversation with the minority leader, with Senator Pia, with Senator Risa, as to why the jobs we have here are of low pay and low quality. And yun, tutukan po natin. Sabi ko, sa tingin ko, it's not education because we have some of the best ranked universities in Asia, in Southeast Asia. The University of the Philippines is in the top 200, Mr. President. In fact, the acceptance rate is even higher or lower. It's harder to get into UP than it is to get into Harvard, Mr. President, believe it or not, no? But I'm not saying we're as good as Harvard. But yung point ko lang is, I think there is a missing ingredient, and that is the strategic thinking and policy that comes in the realm of sports, the arts, science, research and development, and other things which all contribute to nation building and which help make a nation great, which help mold national pride, national identity, and a great nation. So yun po, I think we're on the way to doing that for sports. But again, I posit that question here to the chamber so that we can be conscious and that the decisions we make in the coming months will reflect that consciousness na talagang we have greatness within us. But are we fostering it? Are we encouraging it? Let's be conscious to make sure we do, Mr. President. Salamat po.
Thank you very much to distinguished colleague from Aurora, and I, as a member of this chamber, agree totally on the points being raised by Senator Angara, particularly on this issue on value added for different industries. And I totally agree. I just read the other day an issue particularly on the education sector, wherein we're ranked 79 out of 79 countries tested for comprehension. When it comes to reading and writing, wala tayong problema. Pagdating sa comprehension, it's a different story. Do they understand what they're reading? Do they understand what they are writing? And that is very important. And I'm glad that we raised this issue. I'm glad also before we went into the 19th Congress, the 18th Congress, we were able to approve the EDCOM,